Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have huge fights this upcoming weekend, and it is back to the UFC drawing board because, frankly, 3 of the 4 fights that are happening this weekend are all Bellator. But we have a free UFC and an exciting free UFC nonetheless, and it is at the Royal Arena in Denmark. Starting off with a huge welterweight matchup between the Brazilian cowboy Alex Oliveira going up against heavy hitter in Nicolas Dalby. Nicolas Dalby was a previous UFC vet where he was not exactly in the prime of his career and thus leading to him falling short and getting kicked out of the UFC. He was 1-4 and in fact one of those was in fact a draw to big contender in Darren Till. But nonetheless, he has made his way back after fighting in the Cage Warriors overseas. He is back on the UFC banner to prove that he is here and here to stay, hopefully. Cowboy Oliveira is a longtime UFC vet, although he has come up short in his 2 last outings against tough slugger in Mike Perry and grappling guru Gunnar Nelson. Nonetheless, this guy's resume is nowhere in comparison to the lack of talent that Nicolas Dalby has kind of seen. No disrespect. I'm not saying that Nicolas Dalby doesn't deserve to be here, especially fighting a top name that is on a 2-fight losing streak. Alex Oliveira, in my opinion, put him in this situation. But nonetheless, these are 2 completely different style fighters, in my opinion. They both are going to stand up and bang. Even though Alex Oliveira is very, very talented on the ground, he's going to stand up and utilize his kickboxing. That's what he loves to do. He loves to stand up and bang. He gets emotional. He gets the crowd involved. He wants to stand up and put a show on for the fans. Nicolas Dalby is very much the same way in terms of the fans, but his striking is more of a slugger style, and that could be very devastating for Alex Oliveira if he gets caught. But with such a clinical striker, I think this is going to be the Dalby's demise. He's going to get too carried away and throw wilds, and Alex Oliveira, keys to victory, foreshadowing here, but utilize those leg kicks. Keep Nicolas Dalby at bay, take his legs out of the equation so we can't use them to obviously secure a base and throw those big hooks that he likes to throw so much. Without the legs, he's pretty much going to teeter-totter over, and he's not going to have any power at all left in his fists to hit Cowboy Oliveira with, But if Nicolas Dalby, keys to victory for him, can find a way to close this gap, this is where it's going to be very frustrating for Alex Oliveira, as we've seen in the Mike Perry fight. Mike Perry, not a very sophisticated linear striker. He's more of a wild man himself, similar to Nicolas Dalby, maybe even more so, and he found a way to close the gap and inevitably get the victory and just frustrate Alex Oliveira with those big bombs. But I'm hoping here Alex Oliveira is going to be smart. He wants to get back into the win column because right now he is knocking on the door of the unemployment line in terms of the MMA world, because UFC, in my opinion, is not going to want him if he falls back 3 in a row, especially since someone that's maybe not the highest of caliber, at least of names, Nicolas Dalby. I think that Alex Oliveira is going to go in there smart, calm, sophisticated, cool demeanor, I hope, and he's going to utilize his kickboxing game plan. Keep him at bay with his long strikes, and I think inevitably have Nicolas Dalby get tired in the end of the second, beginning of the 3rd round, and get that TKO, at least the setup, with a rubber shot, bring him to the ground, and get that TKO on the ground, and that's what I'm thinking. Next is a huge light heavyweight clash between Michal Oleksiejczuk going up against previous top title contender in the light heavyweight division in Ovince OSP St. Preux. Oleksiejczuk, 3 fights in the UFC. His first fight with Khalil Roundtree was overturned, so it became a no contest. But his 2 last victories are devastating TKOs. One going up against Gian Vellante, and one going up against Gad Zimra. These are not top contenders, but when we look at Ovince St. Preux, his resume is stacked. Whether or not he's winning or losing these fights against top title contenders or previous or / current title holders, including the likes of John Jones. He has continued to fight the best and best, and of course his last fight falling up short against new top contender and probably a very, very soon to be future title contender in Dominic Reyes. These are totally different style fighters as well. Where we look at Ovince St. Preux, he loves to stand up and bang, but he is a phenomenal wrestler, where Michal Oleksiejczuk is just a stand-up slugger. Mind you, the reach isn't even to comparison to OSP. OSP is a significant bigger guy, and if he can, he's going to utilize that reach, in my opinion. He's a much stronger guy, being obviously of bigger stature, bigger size, and I think the keys to victory here for Ovince St. Preux is let's close that gap and let's take it to the ground. Utilize your wrestling and your grappling. This is really going to fatigue the hell out of Michal Oleksiejczuk, especially since he's never fought anybody with even close to a caliber of a resume or skill set that Ovince St. Preux brings to the table. Michal Oleksiejczuk, keys to victory for you, my friend, is you're going to have to get inside that reach, but be careful because I think that's where Ovince St. Preux wants you to, so he can get you to the ground, but you're going to have to get inside and use your dirty boxing. Really don't give OSP any chance to breathe or move or even think about taking you down or doing anything in the fight whatsoever. Smart smother him, even if you have a fear of getting fatigued in that first round. I think that's the way to do it, especially against a long-time vet like OSP. You got to go in there and make a statement, and make the statement fast. Now, if I'm gonna have to call this fight, I do think OSP may be falling back one more fight here. I just think he's fallen past his prime, and I don't think he really has what it takes, no disrespect. I think Oleksiejczuk's gonna go in there super fueled, especially being around the closest to a hometown crowd for him in Denmark, and I think he's gonna go in there and catch OSP off guard and inevitably get the knockout. I really don't want to see it, but I really think it's gonna happen. Now, this next one is another bloodbath. We're talking about Cutelaba going up against Khalil Roundtree Jr. Cutelaba was once pegged as the new Conor McGregor of the UFC with his fight antics, the way he moves inside the octagon, the way he sets up his strikes. The big difference here, there's no denying this guy must hit the weights on maybe too far of a regular basis. But nonetheless, his striking is phenomenal, and when he hits you, you go to sleep. He has a phenomenal left hook, and if it lands on anybody, and that includes his opponent going into this, a Khalil Roundtree, you could be going to sleep. But Khalil Roundtree is not the same Khalil Roundtree that we first saw when he first entered the UFC from The Ultimate Fighter. Since losing that devastating knockout to Johnny Walker, he since then moved to Thailand to train with the best of the best Thai boxers, and rebounded amazingly when he fought Eric Anders and obliterated him for 15 minutes. Fans, this was a fight that many, if not almost all, basically wrote Khalil Roundtree off, and Khalil Roundtree made the fight look absolutely outstandingly easy. He is a completely different fighter, and continuing his training camp in Thailand could only mean that he is that much better in his preparation and of course in his approach to the fight, and the weapons that he currently has. I'm sure they're honed to a 2.0 level that if he hits Cutelaba with more than just a feet, because he's got his hands too and he's got his elbows, I can see Cutelaba in serious trouble here. Cutelaba's approach to this fight, in my opinion, Key's victory, should be to take this to the ground whenever you get the chance. Khalil Roundtree is a phenomenal fighter, but the one thing he does lack, or at least he's proven to lack in the past, who knows what he's capable of now, is his calm demeanor on the ground. He gets panicky and he wears a lot of damage, and he's susceptible to submissions on the ground. That is where you're going to eliminate all his Thai weapons, because Thais don't fight on the ground at all. And this is where you could hopefully come out with that victory on Khalil Roundtree, where Khalil Roundtree's Keys to victory is played exactly the same you did against Eric Anders. Just turn this into an Eric Anders style victory fight. Just point spar, except obviously with deadly Thai attacks. Just pick your attacks, throw them, then get back out of the pocket. When you're ready, engage again, then get back out of the pocket. Keep doing that. Target those legs for Cutelaba, because once again, we have these big guys, and good luck throwing those big heavy techniques when you have no legs to pivot on. It's going to be very difficult for you. What do I think is going to happen in this fight? I do think that Khalil Roundtree is a completely different branded fighter. He's a completely different specimen, and he is ready to make that climb towards title contention, or at least the conversation of title contention. But I do think that Khalil Roundtree is still going to take this. He is going to wear and tear Cutelaba. Cutelaba, being a very tough guy, is not going to really wear too much significant damage, at least obviously legs up, in my opinion. He's going to be able to give it back to Khalil. It's going to be very back and forth, but inevitably I see Khalil Roundtree Jr. taking this via unanimous decision. Next up, we have Gunnar Nelson out of the SVG camp going up against longtime UFC veteran Gilbert Burns. Two different style fighters. Again, whilst Gilbert Burns has that jiu-jitsu background in his arsenal, second degree Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, he loves to stand up and try to knock your block off, where we look at Gunnar Nelson completely opposite. He doesn't really bear that significant knockout power, nor does he care to, because he just uses his strikes to inevitably set up the grappling game, and inevitably I think this is going to be a grappling war. Gunnar Nelson is not going to get caught up in that emotion of standing up and trying to take your head off, because he knows where his skills and advantages lie, where Gilbert Burns is going to stand up if he has the opportunity to, because he does love to put people away, and he's done so successfully in the past. This is all going to be about who's the better grappler here, or who's the better at the right given time. And Gunnar Nelson, I just feel like he's such an unemotional fighter, and that could be a huge advantage to fighters, especially when they get caught up with someone who's also of remarkable talent, such as Gilbert Burns. I think Gunnar's just going to be a more calm dude, and maybe inevitably even the ground game's could even negate each other completely, and it could end up standing to the feet. Who knows? But I just think that's a very incorrect decision on Gunnar's part. Gunnar should take this to the ground, and yes, I know you're going up against another Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but I think this is where your strengths lie, and where Gilbert Burns, I think, is going to get too caught up, too emotional, and I think he might fatigue himself. Will you take him out via submission? I don't think so, but I think you could wear and tear him with your control and catch the control points on the judges' scorecards and inevitably get the decision once again. Next up, we have a matchup between Danilo Belluardo going up against former Olympian and Mark Madsen. Yes, you heard right, former Olympian. In 2016, Mark Madsen won the silver medal for Greco-Roman wrestling. So, I mean, key to victory here is duh. He's undefeated, 8-0, and it's his first fight in the UFC. This, in my opinion, being a perfect matchup for him, because Belluardo has only had one fight in the UFC where he came up unsuccessful. Another one of those fights where I just see the styles are two completely different style fighters completely. First of all, Belluardo has some of the nastiest ground and pound in the game. He has hammer fisted, if touch you, will destroy you. Just ask Stanojevic from the Golden Cage #2. I think the question here is Mark Madsen obviously being a significant bigger guy, at least fighting significantly bigger back in the Olympic days, but 2016 wasn't that long ago, it was only 3 years ago. He's still absolutely deadly, but the one thing for sure, for such a big man, he can go 15 minutes absolutely with relentless pressure. Danilo Belluardo, although you are an amazing fighter, you're a great striker, you have tenacious ground and pound, and you're not too bad for jiu-jitsu yourself, you don't have, in my opinion, the cardio to keep up with this pace that Mark Madsen, an ex-Olympian, is going to bring to the table. An elite wrestler like this, in my opinion, if he is smart, if he is calm, will win this fight almost every single time. He knows what he's going to need to do. He bears knockout power. He has 2 on his resume, by the way. In his last fight, he has won via rear naked choke. So he is familiar with these other terms of winning. So I do think Mark Madsen is going to be smart enough to watch out for those strikes, especially for those kicks that Danilo likes to throw. He's going to time it right, take one of those kicks, take him down, and ground and pound him. Danilo, I think you're going to have to keep this at a distance. He is a wrestler, my friend. And the one thing you don't want to do is, if you're going to throw a leg kick, I don't want you to throw it to the inside, because if he gets a hold of you, my friend, you are in serious trouble. He will not let go, mark my words. Ex-Olympian. Get that through your head. Play on the outskirts and just try to pick him off with your striking and inevitably hopefully get like a headshot or a body shot to put him away. But I don't think the cards are going to be in your favor. Mark Madsen's obvious key to victory here is do what he does best. Put pressure on you, press you against the cage. He's going to fatigue you, just wear you out with this wrestling. And I also do think this is going to be a decision victory here. Not a lot of finishes, at least in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and every single fight's a finish in the first 10 seconds. Who the hell knows? Now we are going to go to the main event, and it is a very, very exciting main event, mind you. We have Jack Hermansson, which once again is going to be like a hometown hero, even though he's from Sweden. It's going to be in Denmark, so pretty much neighbors, right? And he is going up against another man who is making his mark at the middleweight division, and we are talking about Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier, calm the hell down. You came off a victory against Anderson Silva, but it was completely another fluke. Sorry, not a fluke. It was a very fantastic leg kick that you hit him with. His leg snapped once again. It was a fluke. But I can't knock his pressure, and I can't knock his tenacity. That is one thing for sure. He is not scared. Before that, he knocked out a huge title contender in David Branch, and that is no easy task for anybody. The only people he's lost to: Sean Jordan, Glover Teixeira, Jan Blachowicz, Dominic Reyes. All huge names in that weight division. But mark my words, Jared Cannonier is a completely different fighter now than he was then. I do think Jared Cannonier is going to have to be very cautious in this fight, because Jack Hermansson is also one of those fighters that if he gets a hold of you, it's going to be very hard to basically untangle his web. His last victory, he literally came up so successful against a grappling guru in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Ronaldo Jacare Souza. He beat him in unanimous decision, and just before that, David Branch as well via submission. He's beat Thales Leites. He's only lost to Thiago Santos, but let's face it, the guy is inhuman. Jack Hermansson's grappling is relentless, and being on home soil, Jared Cannonier is going to have to let off his strikes real early and really time them correctly, because if he gets caught by Jack Hermansson, with the fuel that he gets from the screams from the crowd cheering his name, he's going to get a hold of you, take this to the ground, and he is going to tire you the hell out. And your cardio and your striking is no longer going to matter at this point, because he's going to be mauling you. And the moment you slip up, he's going to take you back and put you in a rear naked choke. I think this could be one of the very few finishes on the card. I just think Jared Cannonier, yeah, I think you can knock out Jack Hermansson, but I think if that's Jack Hermansson slipping up huge, which I don't really see him doing, I think he's far too tenured and he wants us too bad. He's on a tremendous win streak against all top contenders, where Jared Cannonier is on a fantastic victory coming from Anderson Silva, but I think that might give him a little bit of false hope because he just beat Anderson Silva. That is not even anywhere close to the Anderson Silva as we remember in the GOAT days, nor was it one of those victories where like, yeah, he really got him good. No, it was a beautiful leg kick nonetheless, but honestly, wrong place, wrong time for Anderson Silva's leg, and it ended up snapping and he no longer could continue. In my opinion, that is a freak accident. Obviously initiated by a fantastic strike, but nobody, included Jared Cannonier, saw it going down that way. So I hope that doesn't really give him a false sense of hope, because if it does, it's just going to be a really, really easy night for Jack Hermansson. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I'm hoping that Jared Cannonier will come in with a cool demeanor and really come in and show Jack Hermansson a ton of respect. But nonetheless, I do think Jack Hermansson is going to get a hold of Jared Cannonier, probably in the later rounds when Jared's a little bit more fatigued, end up taking him to the ground and inevitably getting a submission victory here, probably in the third or fourth round. That's what I'm thinking. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in with me. That was a long one, but we have so many fantastic fights on this card. It was just so worth it to talk about all of them. I really hope you guys enjoy it. Once again, they're absolutely free, so don't worry about spending any money. Like and subscribe, comment below, both positive or negative. It doesn't matter. Thank you so much for rolling with me. Wow, I cannot talk, and we are going to see you guys next week. Peace.